I often wonder, should you just actually keep your mouth shut? Because by speaking out loud, you put yourself out there. People now know your opinion, your mind. And as I've always said, the most hated person in the room is somebody who speaks the truth. Whether you agree with their truth or not, that's a whole other debate. But are you better off just keeping your head down, saying nothing, and gliding through life? Being opinionated in your own mind, but not expressing it out publicly on social media. The benefits are, well, you don't piss anyone off, you don't annoy anybody, you don't disagree with anybody by expressing your views. But unfortunately, dumbasses like me can't keep their mouth shut and speak their mind and say what they think and get themselves in trouble an awful lot by voicing their opinion. I often wonder, should you just keep your mouth shut and just say nothing? And when I see so many people on social media, particularly on Twitter, that agree, and I don't know how many times I've been stopped in town by people who've come up to me and say, listen, I work here, I work there, I'm involved in music, I'm involved in hospitality, I'm involved in whatever the hell. I agree 100% with you, but it's a small town, don't want to really do it publicly, might get myself in trouble and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it means so much when people come up and say it to me, but it kind of reiterates the point of this question. Should you just keep your mouth shut? I personally can't do that. I don't know. It's just not in me. I have to voice my opinion. And got myself in trouble over the last 4 or 5 years. Probably pissed off a few people. Probably maybe lost 1 or 2 mates over it. I don't know. But, I was always brought up that you speak what you believe. You stand up for what you believe in. And you, never be afraid to call out bullshit if you see it. So I'm not going to change. Unfortunately, I can't change. It's not in my DNA. But the question is, for you guys watching is, should you just keep your mouth shut? Should you just, even though you see what's going on is totally wrong, even though everything we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years that is completely wrong, just shut up and get on with it. But isn't that the whole point of tyranny? Isn't that the whole point of, a government that can kind of control the people is just by, banking on people shut up, people saying nothing and hoping that they can get away with it? You can see already, we've just after seen in the UK today, where the Supreme Court has just said that a woman will be based on a biological fact. Therefore, it is now against the law to say trans women are women, because they're not. We've all known that. Never should have gotten to this point. But we can see a change. Our Minister for Justice is now coming out saying nearly 90% of what's coming into the country is illegals. We need to get 25,000 out of hotels to save tourism industry. We need to do X, Y, Z. We need to deport. We need to have stronger, stringent rules about coming into the country, even though the ones we have are already perfectly fine if they were enforced. There's a huge shift. It's a huge change. And I often wonder, is it because of dipshits like me who shout and scream? I didn't change the world, but I'm just saying more and more people who do speak up. Does the government feel forced to go along with the people that are standing up and speaking out? So I don't know. Do you keep your mouth shut when you see, in your opinion, mass injustice going on and things that are completely wrong and things that you should stand up and fight for? I could have kept my mouth shut in COVID. We were perfectly fine. Could have said nothing, just breezed through it. But what I saw in my mind was wrong. How the governments were, their policies, everything was wrong. So I had to speak up because that's just me. But I could have kept my mouth shut because we're fine. We're fine. Same now, mass immigration. Of course I'm going to piss people off when I go on about that. Again, I could have kept my mouth shut. We're fine. We're one of the lucky ones. We're one of the lucky ones. We deal with huge tour operators. We're very massive platform here on social media that I built up. So, we're lucky. Even though business is tanking all around the country, we're one of the lucky ones. Should I just keep my mouth shut? Fight my own battle, sail my own ship, not give a shit if anyone else goes bust? But I have too many people contacting me saying, what the hell am I going to do? I'm about to lose my business. Everything's going down the Swanee. We all know why. Anyway, thought for the day. I'm in here. It is kind of sun shining outside. You won't see that. The sun is shining. Not as good as it was last week. But it's a bit chilly out there and it's a bit windy. That's why I did it in here, because I don't have any of these fancy microphones or any of that kind of shit. But that's my thought for the day. Should you keep your mouth shut? And you don't get to turn around and say, no, speak out loud if you're coming from a bot name and a kind of a no profile picture. I read every comment, but I admire more those who've got their profile picture and their real name associated to it because, well, we're not hiding behind anything. So That's the thought for today. That's the question for today. Be intrigued to know what you think. Should you speak out? Should you use... I've only a small platform, even though in my own head I think it's deadly. But when you compare it to all these hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of followers on social media, mine's only small. But there's a lot of people involved in my industry that follow me and appreciate what I'm saying and what I'm doing. But is the smart thing to shut up and say nothing and just, as I said, paddle your own ship? Thought for today. Love to know what you think. But there is no doubt a huge swing in what we're seeing throughout. It needs to be pushed even further though, but there's definitely a swing in how governments are carrying out their policies these days. Apparently it was far right to be, the direction they're heading in, but they seem to be heading a little bit towards that direction. I don't know. Keep your mouth shut and say nothing, or voice your opinion. Which one should you do? Have a great day.